Have you ever noticed these are the pillars that hold up the ceiling and the rest of the structure? They are foundational. But why am I telling you this? Because of the topic for today's video, restaurant covers served. Restaurant covers served are like those pillars I just talked about, the building blocks of restaurant revenue. So next time you enter a building, notice those pillars. Now let's get into why restaurant covers served are considered the building blocks, or at least one part of the building blocks that yield restaurant revenue, so that you can get the maximum leverage out of this restaurant covers served video. I would urge you to watch the video all the way to the end, where I will be sharing 3 key takeaways. As you saw earlier, restaurant covers served, which is the topic for today's video, are critical in building up restaurant revenue. And we're going to see how restaurant covers contribute to restaurant revenue and how they play a part in the success of the restaurant operation itself. Take a look at this extract of the Taste Buds Restaurant Outlet's profit and loss statement. In particular, pay attention to the total food and beverage covers, which are shown here. A couple of things to notice. To begin with, we are going to be dealing with the first 3 columns shown here, February, March, and April, which also happen to be the lean, standard, and peak months of restaurant operation. We'll talk about lean, standard, and peak months shortly. Notice a couple of things about the total food and beverage covers. The food covers are separated from beverage covers. This is a very important and a very common part of a restaurant operation. But also notice how the food covers shown under breakfast, lunch, and dinner are almost 10 times the number for beverage covers shown. This is also very typical of a restaurant where the food part of the food and beverage revenue is almost about 75 to 85, even up to 90% of a restaurant revenue. The restaurant food covers are only one part of the contribution to the restaurant revenue. The other part is the average food check, or the average food and beverage check that you see below the food and beverage covers column. We will talk about food and beverage average check in the next video. Let's take a closer look at this and understand why they are so vital to a restaurant's food and beverage revenue. This is the statistics section of the Taste Buds Restaurant profit and loss statement. Statistics are normally shown at the foot of the profit and loss statement. I want to draw your attention to a couple of things before we talk about restaurant covers served. Notice seating capacity. Seating capacity here is 120, and you can see that it's the same for the other 2 months shown here. Seating capacity is literally the total number of seats that are available in the Taste Buds restaurant. Remember, I talked about the importance of restaurant covers served in contributing to restaurant revenue. I want to draw your attention to a couple of things here. First, notice this row, which talks about daily food covers breakfast. Food covers, restaurant food covers are normally categorized under meal periods. And you will notice there are three meal periods shown here. Breakfast earlier we saw, lunch, and dinner. These are the three most common meal periods for a restaurant. Coming back to our daily food covers, you notice that the daily food covers for breakfast, lunch, and dinner are shown 132 for breakfast, 108 for lunch, and 120 for dinner. Why am I talking about daily food covers? The importance of restaurant covers served comes through when you realize that a restaurant manager needs to have a way, have a method to be able to see what kind of business the restaurant is doing in that meal period. So, for example, if you take the daily food covers of 132, the restaurant manager has a way to relate to how many food covers they served for breakfast, and then similarly for lunch and dinner. Let's take a look at the seating capacity, which is 120. You notice that the breakfast served are showing 132. That means the covers for breakfast are higher than the seating capacity. This is a powerful analytical tool we are going to revisit in a later video. It simply means that the restaurant is able to serve more number of covers than its capacity. And this has something to do with a concept called table turnover, which we will visit in a later video. Notice also that the lunch covers served daily is showing 108, which is less than the capacity of 120. This means that the breakfast covers served are higher than the capacity of the restaurant, while lunch is lower. Dinner, coincidentally, is the same number of covers as the capacity, 120. So this brings out a very key aspect and a very common one for a restaurant, that breakfast, lunch, and dinner meal periods have different covers served, and so have to be approached in different ways in order to attract customers. Continuing our discussion, you notice that just like the daily food covers for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, there are daily beverage covers as well. At the end of the day, when a menu item is served to a guest who comes to the restaurant, it consists most times of two elements, a food element and a beverage element. The food element is the major element of the two. As I said earlier, the food element tends to be anything from 3 to 5, 6 times more than the beverage component. However, this does not take away the fact that the beverage is a very important part of that meal. And this brings us to this whole concept of the restaurant revenue that is achieved. A restaurant can achieve higher revenues only by combining food with beverage. And beverage may include soft drinks, may include wine, may include beer, and other kinds of beverages. So each meal period, depending upon whether it's breakfast or lunch or dinner, will have a different beverage component to accompany the food, which is the main part of the menu item that is served. These are important, critical aspects of the restaurant operation, which have a great bearing on how much revenue the restaurant is able to achieve. Continuing our look at the extract of the Taste Buds Restaurant Outlet Profit and Loss Statement, we noticed how food covers are categorized under meal periods, breakfast, lunch, and dinner being the most popular or common meal periods. You can have other meal periods as well, like tea or supper, which add to the covers of the restaurant and thereby revenue. The key part to understand is that just like hotel room revenue is contributed to by the building blocks of market segments, a restaurant's food and beverage revenue is contributed by the building blocks of meal periods like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Restaurant food and beverage covers served are business volume to the restaurant operation, just like market segments are building blocks of the room revenue of the hotel operation. Here are your three key takeaways from the restaurant covers served video. Number one, set targets for daily covers. As a restaurant manager, you need to be on top of your game. Setting targets for your daily covers will allow you to know whether you did better, worse, or just about the same as your target. Number two, your covers will span multiple meal periods. Breakfast covers are not the same as lunch and dinner covers. So keep in mind how covers span multiple meal periods. And number three, always remember food covers tend to be generically 3 to 5 times beverage covers. Together, food and beverage covers contribute to food and beverage revenue. Always have this in mind. If you like this video, subscribe to the Profits Masterclass channel for future videos directly to your inbox.